And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out. And today we've got Serge with us and myself. Looking forward to another episode. I think we're both experiencing a little bit of hot weather here as summer heats up. And I know, Serge, we got an interesting question too we might tackle in this episode. We'll see if Kris wants to bite on it.
Yeah. As soon as I saw it, it was like, yeah, let's go for it. And basically, somebody on YouTube, because Kris has been talking about like prosperity thinking and these kind of things. So the question was, what's the difference between prosperity thinking and fulfillment thinking? And I think it'll be interesting to see how Kris pans out on that.
I think that's an interesting question as well.
Mm-hmm. So, shall we just have a go at it?
I don't have anything else exciting to say, so we could jump in today.
Indeed, we trust that you are comfortable.
Oh, yes, Kris, very comfortable. Thank you.
And we thank you for your consideration.
Thanks as well for yours.
Please feel free to begin.
Well, yeah, we had an interesting question. So is that something you're up for tackling this episode?
We might be.
All right. Well, I'm going to put it out there and you can run with it.
And it is always nice to create a little bit of intrigue.
Yeah. Well, so the question that came up from one of our viewers is what is the difference between prosperity thinking and fulfillment thinking?
Indeed, a very good question for several reasons. So, in your vernacular, the main gist of prosperity thinking has more to do with an attitude towards the acquisition of things or goods. Whether it is a large sum of money, bigger cars, bank account, houses. Not that there is anything wrong with that. This may be indeed some interest to many people. There is a caveat, however, in that mostly after some time, you may need to double down on the kind of prosperity that you want. You have to keep increasing it simply because it has been shown that a large percentage of people in such mindset, so that cultivate such a mindset, end up having various degrees of dissatisfaction or get bored with what they have accumulated so far, and they need more stimuli. So they need to stimulate more acquisition of goods and things in order to more or less cap that fulfillment they thought the acquisition of goods would have filled. And again, prosperity thinking is not a bad thing. It does require putting it into perspective. It is, in some ways, preferable to venture into an attitude of fulfillment thinking. That implies that you are cultivating and seeking out and engaging in situations of one kind or another where you actually feel fulfilled, whether it is something as simple as taking a walk in a park, looking at the flowers, or something more complex, creating organizations, events, circumstances for many people to share a kind of joy, or helping other people who might be in a situation less prosperous than yours to bring them joy, helping people, say, make a wish foundation, or many other kinds of situations that bring fulfillment, a certain kind of joy that surfaces simply from good human interaction with others. That may also include a certain level of prosperity to be shared in one way or another, so that everyone participates in the prosperity. But if prosperity is used for the accumulation and the hoarding of things, including monies, in the long run, there simply is not going to be enough to keep you happy and fulfilled, simply because these things are temporary. They are not long lasting. Whilst fulfillment can go a very long way, a small act of kindness or goodness can go a very long way in bringing you a certain level of fulfillment. So that is, in a gist, the main differences between the two. Fulfillment thinking also centers more around specific sets of values, values that transcend just that which is temporary, but focuses more on the human act of kindness, empathy, compassion, and similar things. So this is something that can be shared, whilst a great deal of prosperity is often not shared. Or if it is in a very, very small circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it seems like the fulfillment thinking is necessary to really enjoy prosperity.
At that level, indeed. For instance, somebody can be prosperity minded and fulfillment minded. And this is just an off the wall example. Someone may come across large sums of monies, more than they will likely need for a lifetime. And instead of hoarding it for their own particular purposes, they might say, create employment through various company structures and then employ thousands of people, thereby providing these thousands of people with the opportunity to make a good livelihood. And this is just one small example, but you also get the point.
Yeah, and well, for some reason with the prosperity thinking, I also think of almost like the symbol or the myth of the dragon sitting in its lair with all this gold by itself, this sort of hoarding type of creature. They don't really seem to be all that fulfilled. They always need more too.
Indeed, just like the old Disney character Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
So the main point is that you can have both. They can work hand in hand very, very nicely. You just have to put it into context. Make certain that your intent is in alignment with your particular values. That becomes an important key in making yourself successful in these particular areas.
And Kris, I have a question. Is there any relation with the fulfillment thinking and really reaching that state of joy to gratitude, like being grateful for the moment or grateful for what we do
Indeed,
have.
absolutely. To be grateful, even for the small things that you have, the small things that you had, the larger things that you will have, and so on and so forth. But sharing in that gratitude, expressing it willingly, again, really is the icing on the cake, if you like. And we're not saying that if you do have an excess of abundance and do not share it, then of course you might be a bad person. We're not saying any of that. We are saying that if you want your fulfillment to be well rounded out, rooted in good values, consider the possibility of perhaps sharing your prosperity.
Well, I like that idea.
All of your human ideas are worth the expression. What you do with them is another thing entirely. Every single idea, every thought has the potential towards fulfillment. Where you take it is a different thing. And even something as shocking as Oppenheimer and the discovery of the atom bomb, which on the surface looks like an incredibly dangerous situation, that it could initially and potentially wipe out all life on your planet if used improperly, has also created an opportunity for your race to consider things it never considered before. That being of weapons of such a caliber that it can endanger all life on the planet. So you have had to rethink your sets of morals. You've had to rethink exactly who and what you are as a species. And from that, you also have the potential to create different kinds of energies that was not available on your planet before, which can also carry both some great dangers and some incredible benefits. But that is something that you are responsible and should be responsible for as a species, so that you can contemplate just how powerful thoughts are. So there is something to be said with the power of thought. Indeed, this is a prime example. Does that also make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, it makes sense.
You
Trying to.
have a similar situation right now with artificial intelligence. People claiming it is obviously the end of human civilization as the only possible outcome. This is from the human perspective. Some see it as the ultimate threat, that all life can be wiped out. Others, however, see some great potential in terms of creating change that can benefit humankind, can also boost humankind's own levels of intelligence, curiosity, creativity, enabling humans to do things they might not have considered possible before. So again, you are at a similar stage, almost where you were when nuclear energy, atomic bombs came online in that way. So you are at a different crossroads now. And yet it is a very similar crossroads. You have to think about the future of your species. And of course, it is not all black and white. There are going to be many different shades in here and many kinds of debates. However, it is optimistic to look to, in your words, the bright side of things that will dramatically up the influence of positive outcomes. If you all suddenly decide to chip into the negative side of the equation, then it simply becomes a more dire situation. And again, the same thing happened when nuclear energy was more or less tapped into. All of a sudden, nuclear reactors, nuclear energy, the potential for all sorts of energy production not thought of before. Does
Well,
that make sense to you?
yeah, for me, it's a little bit of a lesson of the importance of how we focus our attention. And with that example of the nuclear reaction, is you could use a similar thought to create energy and power and this collaboration and civil aspect within civilization. You could also use it to create that bomb and be able to contrast the differences between a similar thought.
And it also showcases the idea that in one single idea, you have the potential to unleash enormous amounts of energy, as in the idea of nuclear energy was created the atomic bomb. One idea, however complex it was, it's still based on an idea. Just that alone. And you live in a universe of ideas. You yourselves are the ideas you have about whom and what you think you are. So you are, as human beings, the end result of the narrative that you entertain about yourselves. Again, ideas. The world of ideas is fascinating beyond imagination.
Yeah, and it reminds me of, I think, something we've even discussed in this set of discussions, but also being a story. Use the word narrative and the importance of that.
The idea that some people are understanding the concept of ideas and the universe as idea construction will only make you that much more aware of the gifts you have given yourselves, the gifts of the gods that you have given yourselves. It's not gods that have given you these things. You have even given the gods their lives. You have created them. And it doesn't matter what the religious background is. You have given these gods their lives. You have created them. And we include all religions and religious bodies, all of them, not one to the exception of the others, all the same. So that again is an incredible incentive to rethink and reframe what you are and what your ideas are and what you are capable of with your ideas. Now that's an idea worth considering, is it not?
Yeah, and it brings up a question. Speaking the idea of the gods, and that is that with the making, the various gods, and as you were talking, I was thinking of all the different Hindu gods and the Abrahamic god, and all of these different versions. But were these attempts to recreate external, and it's not it just recreate in our own human fashion, like an inner archetype or something that we sense within ourselves.
That is absolutely correct. The idea and the potential of ideas within you is recognized by you in such a tremendous way. You have to reflect that in your myths. So your mythologies are a reflection of the power that you sense behind the ideas that you entertain. That also is so significant. It behooves the intelligent human being to actually examine what it is that they believe about themselves and their world. If there were enough people tapping into this stream of understanding, your world would change in a few weeks, perhaps a generation. Two, at the very most, your world would be completely different. But your species is still struggling in its infancy. It is still, in some ways, regardless of the high degree of technological achievements, you are still, in a way, in the Stone Age of consciousness. You are learning to bang rocks together and to rub sticks and make fire at that particular layer of consciousness. Some of you are a little further along. It is those of you that are further along that encourage the others to look ahead into the visions that you are able to see. You're visionaries. So you unconsciously, subconsciously, collectively urge the other humans to follow and to leave behind their pain and suffering, because the pain and the suffering causes you to fight. You will see that line in Joseph's little short story that he sent you near the end. When you fight yourselves, you fight others. Stop fighting yourselves, you will stop fighting others. Simple, simple, simple principle. But you are still full of pain. So you want somehow to lash out and others to feel the same pain. Why? Because you have convinced yourselves that you have been separated from what you call the divine. You simply do not yet understand that you cannot be separated from that which you are, if you want to use those very terms. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, Kris. And yeah, I think we might be getting close to a break point. I'd love to continue some of this in the next episode too.
Indeed, that is most agreeable. And we will see you in a few moments' time.
All right. Thank you very much.